Okay. Call the Kitty Hawk Town Council to order this Monday, November 5th, 2018, Kitty Hawk Town Hall. It's now 6 p.m. Glad to have anybody that's showed up. You're welcome, always welcome. Would you join us for a moment of silence and the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, do I hear a motion to approve the agenda?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? There are none. Okay, Ms. Dowdy?
Ms. Osborne.
Ms. Osborne. Dowdy, Osborne, well, I looked down and said Dowdy. You're part of that, right?
It's good to see you all this evening. I'm here tonight to present the results of your June 30th, 2018 independent audit. Just going to give you a quick snapshot of where you stood at the end of the year, and of course I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have as well. The town has received an unmodified opinion on its financial statements, which is the best opinion you can receive. You'll find that on pages 1 and 2 of the financial statements. And I also just want to point out that there were no material weaknesses or significant deficiencies in internal control, and that's noted in the internal control report on pages 59 to 60, so congratulations on that. Just wanted to let you know that revenues exceeded expenses in the general fund by about $264,000 last year. This was largely due to revenues that came in over budget projections and expenses that came in under budget projections. You can see that number that I'm talking about on page 17 if you want to just take a quick look at that. That's Exhibit 5, and you can see the third column in as the actual amounts, shows revenues and expenses, and you can see that amount of $264,163. Sales tax, occupancy tax, and land transfer taxes were strong last year, and they increased due to growth, but also they grew for the town because of the town's pro rata share of those revenues increased as well. The town's unassigned fund balance increased a little over $500,000 last year to $6,557,841, and you'll find that on page 14. Bottom of the page, first column, it says unassigned $6,557,841. You can see that your total fund balance is $10,355,431. The rest of that amount are restricted portions of fund balance. It includes $2,317,983 that you have in your capital reserve fund, and then a couple of other restrictions there. You had actually anticipated using $995,333 in fund balance last year with the payoff of the fire station debt, but you actually ended up not using any fund balance. After deducting the town's working capital, or what you refer to as your emergency fund balance policy, which is $3.5 million, once you subtract that from the $6,557,841, you have an unassigned fund balance of $3,057,841. They don't let us, the LGC doesn't let you show that 3.5 reduction on this page, but in the notes to the financial statements, you'll see a note that discusses what your fund balance policy is and talks about what the unassigned is net of that $3.5 million. That's on page 41. The town's tax rate for the audit year was the same as the prior year at 34 cents. 4 cents of that was restricted for beach nourishment, and then there was a 12-cent municipal service district tax. We added a note to the financial statements this year. Actually just changed the format of it a little bit on page 41 that shows the funds that are accumulated for beach nourishment. The town's tax base increased about 1% last year, and the tax collection rate was 99.38%, which was a slight increase over the prior year. The town implemented what is referred to as GASB 75. That's the Governmental Accounting Standards Board that sets the standards for governmental accounting. That is an accounting standard that relates to retiree health insurance. Up until fiscal year 18, you had been recognizing an amortized portion of the actuarial cost every year. The standard changed last year, and they're not letting us amortize that cost anymore, what the past service cost. They're requiring the full liability to be recognized, so we did that for the town of Kitty Hawk last year. So when you look at your financial statements, you're gonna see the full liability for retiree health insurance at June 30th of $1,570,468. That's up about $500,000 from June 30th of 17. If you recall, we've talked about that over the last couple of years. It's a reporting standard, not a funding standard. You're not required to fund it, but the LGC does want us to, at least have that conversation with you and hope that you're having that conversation amongst yourselves as to whether it is something that you want to consider funding. And when I say funding, that means taking some of your cash and putting it in what's called a true qualified trust fund that you can't really have your hands on except for retiree health insurance. You've ended the year in great, strong financial condition, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Well, anybody? Any questions? No, sir. Okay. That Gatsby statement, 75, what was that? I'm a little confused on what the actual cost of doing that is.
The cost of doing the study, or,
Well, is it a study? Is that what costs so much money?
yeah, you're paying about $5,000 to an actuarial company, Kavanaugh and Company, to do an actuarial study
Okay.
to estimate what they think your liability is for retiree health insurance.
Okay. And just for the people that might be watching what we're saying here, we have not set aside funds
Correct.
intentionally, because once we do that, a person might come, we'll set aside funds for them 1 or 2 years. We never can touch that again.
Right.
They might go away, that sort of thing. So we didn't amortize it, but we also didn't set it aside because people are in flux.
Right. And that, and you're right, that actuarial study is done based on the current makeup of your employees. The age, gender, all types of things. And like you said, it does change. It's unlikely that the liability is going to go down, but just because of the nature of retiree health insurance costs, but you are correct.
Okay, and I only stated that for the audience, okay? We had an increase in the ad valorem thing, or the pro rata,
Right.
but the county also went into beach nourishment for Buxton.
Right.
And the Nags Head, did they also institute?
They had an MSD last year, and there's a 1-year delay before those actually take effect. But I believe last year was the first year that they were back with theirs.
Okay, so next year, we'll see a pro rata change to what we had this year.
Yes, you likely will.
And it'll be a decrease more
It
than
will be
likely.
a decrease, yes.
Okay, I just, again, for the audience, I want to make sure, it looks rosy right now, but things are
Yeah,
always in
no,
a...
definitely, that's definitely a great observation.
Okay,
It's so hard to watch those numbers because you're kind of jockeying for position,
yeah,
seeing what other towns do and what impact that has on you.
correct. All right. Well, financially, we're in very good shape for a whole bunch of reasons.
Absolutely.
We try to guard the treasury as best we can, and right now, the economy is doing us a favor too.
Right.
Thank you.
I do just want to mention, I want to thank the staff for their help. Obviously, Liliana, and you have a new employee, Jessica. They were both very helpful to me when I was here. They had a little bit of a transition last year. Jessica came on, I think, sometime in the spring, but they both did a really great job helping get things together for the audit. So,
Yeah, and Andy has been really on top of things. When he came in, he really...
he's a budget mathematical
Yeah,
genius.
he does good. But he also had
My bank account.
the finance officer quit, and we had a lot of things going on. So
Yeah.
he came in under a trying time. So all three of them do a good job, and we appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you, Teresa.
All right, you all have a nice night.
Thank you.
Thank you, Teresa.
All right. Next is public comment. Anyone signed up? Anyone wish to speak? All right. Let the record show no one came forward. Consent agenda. Do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion to approve.
Does it have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? There are none. All right. General Manager, we got to you really quick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening. Members of the council, the couple of comments I have this evening, the first being the item on the agenda. The town is going to kick off an alert and notification sign-up campaign. As you recall, after the last tropical storm that came through, Michael here 3 or 4 weeks ago kind of snuck up on us. We had a debriefing meeting from the storms that we've had, and the mayor was in attendance, and he did bring up a good point about notifying the general public. I think we could maybe do a better job, so we all sat around the table and came up with some ideas. And of course, we're in a day and age where cell phones are the quickest way to get out the communication in a situation like a Soundside flood that we have in Kitty Hawk. So what we're going to do is utilize the alert and notification system that we purchased along with the county a year ago, and we've been able to we're going to be able to alert and notify people via text messages, just specifically in the town of Kitty Hawk with this system. So what we're going to do tomorrow during the elections, we've already received permission from the supervisor of elections to be outside the area there. To any residents that want to sign up for this alert and notification system, they can sign up at the booth tomorrow. We also have the notification online for any residents interested in signing up. And then also you can text join space town of Kitty Hawk to 30890. Once again, that's join, and then you leave a space town of Kitty Hawk, and you text to 30890. But we'll also be out tomorrow, kind of kicking off the campaign. We want to get as many residents as we can on this. I think our last little situation we had that maybe some cars could have been saved and some property, and maybe even a life in the future. So. We're going to try to get as many people signed up for that system as we can.
Let me
Go
add
right ahead.
some comment to that. I asked for the debrief in what they're doing as a result of my request to do something specifically for Kitty Hawk residents. And the reason that is, I knew, Jeff, I know you knew, Irvin, we knew the sign was up high, and we knew that if we got any wind from the west or southwest, we were going to get some sort of flooding. And even with that, it still surprised us because the waves on top of the surge that did come was not accounted for. But we knew enough that we could have, if we had been a little more present, we could have said through a system like this, Kitty Hawk folks, this might be worse than we think it is because we have some local knowledge. That's the reason I brought that up. And it may not be because the county, didn't call something together because it wasn't that big enough situation to them. It may not be that we get it right, but at least we can give that little extra caution. So that's what this is all about. And if we get it wrong, it'll all be on me, okay?
Okay, that works.
Yeah, once again, the information's on the website if somebody types that in and doesn't get it right.
That works at home too, by the way.
The second item that I had on the agenda that's in front of you that we added to the agenda was a discussion that we probably should have on the Sandy Run Park, Kitty Hawk Park Connector Trail project that was intended to connect the Kitty Hawk Park to the Birch Lane Trail, which is a 1.8 mile trail that runs east and west. Starts out behind the Walmart. There's not a very good identified place that people know that there's even a trail there. So the council, the Recreation Board, the local advisory committee for the Woods Reserve is all behind this project. We submitted for a grant with the NC Recreational Trails Committee for about $98,000. And we also submitted for a grant with the Tourism Bureau that we were awarded for about $45,000, $43,000. So we were hoping to fund the full project. The state came back, I think they had $2.8 million dollars in request and $1.4 million to fund. So they said that we did not get selected for the grant this year. We're able to apply in 2019. But I just wanted to bring this before council, given that it does have so much momentum behind it. Maybe after hearing the audit, there's a way that we can either accomplish this year. Obviously, a project like that has to be cut through the marsh, a little bit of the marsh there. So obviously, I believe a contractor would want to do that in the wintertime. So if we want to wait till 2019, or we wanted to see what's some cost estimates to go ahead and proceed with the project, that would leave us funding about $93,000. Those are just estimates. We haven't really gotten a hard number from any contractors through a bid process. But if the council was interested, we could proceed with the bid of the project and then bring it back before council to determine if the council wants to move forward with the funding. I didn't want to wait till December meeting because that'd get us a little further behind, but I'll leave it up to the council.
Okay, and I appreciate the fact that you had the presence of mind to say, we possibly can do this, we've got some revenue, and perhaps we can do it. A couple of things. One of the reasons a Partif grant is hard to get is because they want a lot of bells and whistles added to whatever the project is, and Sandy Run is a prime example of that. In order to make that go further with the Partif grant, we have 2 canoe gazebos and some other things, you know, a stand that I don't know whether it was really necessary or not, but it was necessary to get the grant. The problem with the Partif grant is, once it's built and that money's expended, then the town is forevermore required to maintain it, keep it in perpetuity. If we do this ourselves on our part, that same thing does not apply to the tourism part of the grant, and we're not required in perpetuity to do it if we can afford to do it. All right, so it's something to consider, and I'm going to ask you to do that, but there's a question first for you. And it probably involves Willie. So Willie, come up to the mic, please. Willie, the question is this. Tateway. Clearly, there's a leak in that line. There's a divot in the road right where that joint is. We've contacted Hatchell. We want it fixed ASAP. Where do we stand on that? If you or the manager know, please tell us.
I actually spoke with Hatchell this morning. They're in Kitty Hawk, connecting the 2 water lines for the 2 culverts that are going under Kitty Hawk Road.
Is that the one, they're the ones doing that?
And as soon as they're done connecting them, they're going over there
Okay.
to test, because he has all this stuff is here now. Everything was at a sewer plant in Camden, but now everything is back on the beach.
So you feel like it's going to happen?
I do, yes.
Okay. The reason I ask that question is if we're going to have to pay to fix that, then we may want to rethink what we're doing here. So let me make this motion. I move that we allow the town manager, based upon his computations, to move forward with the bid and to activate that bid based upon getting Tateway fixed, so that we know we don't have to do that. And sooner than later, on both of those, benefits all of us. Does that make sense?
I like that.
We have a second? All right, we have a second. Anybody got any other questions?
Yeah, I do. So, is this the same path that really used to come out where,
It's going to come out in Kitty Hawk Estates in one end.
and then
and
Midget
it's-
Road on the other?
Correct.
Okay.
It's kind of really running
Okay.
north-south.
North-south, yeah,
Yeah.
east-west
But-
kind of.
Yeah.
End of my road. But we're using, in
But-
this project, and it's phase 1 of 2 projects, but what we're doing here is we're going from the Kitty Hawk part, the Dare County part, to get over to that ridge essentially, so
Right.
that you can access it, because that's cut off by Casper and everything
Yeah.
north, I mean south. And then there's just a road in Kitty Hawk Estates on the other end.
And the-
So,
And the biggest issue, you know, even with the Coastal Reserve and everybody, is people feeling uncomfortable at the access, the parking accesses, whether it be at Kitty Hawk Estates or wherever they're trying to access that particular trail. It's really hard, the parking situation, covered bridge, and which is on the other side. But it seems like a lot of the parking, there's controversy, you know, because it's kind of like on the side of the road. And this would allow to have a a really nice place to park for people to get into that section of woods that I don't think is getting used right now because of,
No, it's not.
yeah, because, I mean,
agree
there's,
with the
it's really hard to get in there, but, and I think the biggest problem is the parking. Uncomfortable about where they're parking,
Well, and there's not enough of it.
not enough of it.
So, and the second question, so we got $48,000 from Materials Bureau. We didn't get the 92,000 from the Cardiff. So the total project was about $150,000?
That was that's a projection, yeah.
That's
And
an
that was,
estimate.
Yeah, I'm all good, I'm game.
Okay, all right. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, there were none. Okay, so you got your marching orders.
all right, I'll just get two more updates if I could. The vegetative debris contractor is in town, he's at the in the landing, they've been here since Friday. The town picked up with our grapple truck a lot of the C&D material. With the vegetative debris material, we called in the contractor there that does a lot of work for FEMA that was in Kildover Hills to help us move that out of there. So we should have most everything picked up by the end of this week as far as the vegetative stuff from Tropical Storm Michael. And then one more just notification on Veterans Day trash pickup is going to be, which is usually Monday, November 12th. That's Veterans Day. Will be Tuesday, November 13th. Just as a reminder, and that's all the comments that I have.
While you're on that, the FEMA damage in Kitty Hawk was very light, but the damage to all of Dare County seems to be quite heavy. Are they meeting a threshold for FEMA help?
No.
They haven't,
Not yet?
yeah, they're still working
They haven't met the threshold, or they haven't got
on it.
word
They
yet?
don't even know what the threshold is yet. They said it's gonna be higher than before.
Okay, all right, okay, so that, all right. Then the next question, again, goes back to Willie. Willie, when we ordered up 3 pumps, we had them in standby.
Yes.
We didn't use them, and the man called you and said, can you turn them loose, and we turned them loose.
Yes, sir.
Are we going to be charged a full week for that?
Yes, sir.
Did he turn them loose to somebody else?
We're only gonna get charged for the time we have it on standby.
Not a full week.
Well, a full week is cheaper than the 3 days we have it on standby, so
Okay,
we'll pay that rate.
all right, but it won't be past that.
No, sir.
All right. Okay, just trying to keep the dollars in the town
Thank you.
wherever I can. All right, that was the only questions I had. Thank you. Okay, town attorney,
None for me, Mayor.
nothing. And town council, you've got some stuff you want to talk about.
Yes, sir.
So let's start with you.
First of all, I'd like to thank Andy and staff for the great audit report we had. Really appreciate the hard work. Tomorrow's election day, and I see some election staff eagerly waiting for us to leave as we speak. And that's what I want to talk about. I was approached by a member of the people who work on election day and asked about the possibility of us moving our council meeting when it falls before election day, which happens from time to time, happens in November during elections. And I said I never thought about it because our meeting may last 25 minutes, it may last 2 hours and 25 minutes, and they're sitting here waiting for us to leave. So I said, I don't know, but I'll do some checking. So I came to Town Hall and talked to Lynn. I knew Lynn had been here a long time and asked, did she have any background on this? She said she had not, but she would do some legwork for me, do some homework. So Lynn called me, we talked about it, and if you think about it, when we have our council meetings, say there's a holiday on a Monday, and that's our council meeting, our meeting is moved to the following day, Tuesday. That won't work because the following day is election day. If you move it to the following Monday of the next week, Veterans Day holiday, which is what's happening again. So Lynn had a great idea, and I agreed with it. Instead of moving the date, why don't we move the meeting up to 4 p.m. to accommodate these people working here? It would happen in November, election day. Your primaries are normally in May. And I personally think that's a great idea. I want to get your input and bring it up, and I would be glad to make that a motion if you guys see fit.
Word of caution. One of the problems we're having or we have had in manning the Board of Adjustment, is for whatever reason, they chose 4 PM to start their meeting. And that has been a problem because people have declined participating because they're still working. And I would carry that same caution across to people that do work. If you start the meeting at 4 PM and people do want to come, then it would impact what they're doing there. So have a caution in your thinking on that. Whatever we do won't happen right now, because we're set tonight.
But I have no problem moving it to a different day. I mean, it could be,
Well, I just
you know,
talked
you
about
could
a different-
advertise it instead of Monday, it could be Wednesday.
You do it on
Have
a
it
Wednesday.
I mean, you know, it.
Lynn, you got some?
It gets really confusing to switch just nilly-willy like that. If we know that, anytime there's an election day, anytime, we just move up the time to 4 or 5 o'clock. It keeps us more structured, but y'all can certainly move it to a different
Oh,
day.
that's fine.
Well, it happens what, in our case, every biannual?
Every 2 years?
So it happens every year. It's gonna happen next year because there's a local election.
Where would 5 PM help?
5 o'clock.
Well, better than 4. But we've already established next year's.
We can amend that.
We can amend it
Yeah.
next year.
Yeah, that's not,
I want you to go home tonight and think about it and decide, we'll talk about it at the next meeting. Is there a problem with that?
oh, no, sir.
Okay.
No, we have until May.
Everybody think about it, and we'll make some sort of decision next meeting. That good?
Yes, sir.
Figure it
Yes,
out.
sir. Thank you.
All right. Okay, moving on down. Irvin, you got anything?
I have nothing.
And Lynn?
I'm just delighted that the town is in a great financial position right now, and thank you to everybody that has helped to make that possible.
Okay. And Jeff?
I have a few. First of all, I hope everybody's as glad as I am that we purchased the truck to pick the debris off of the side of the road, because, you know, at first we were going to do it. We decided to go ahead, and I think it's really helped in cleaning up a lot. And Willie, thank you very much for all the hard work of getting everything picked up as fast as you can. I'd also like to thank the police department. I understand that they were scrambling, trying to keep stuff above the water in the police department, which seems to be happening a little bit, quite a bit. But thank you guys for getting your stuff up off the ground a little bit. I think there was getting the cars out of there. Other than that, I think the alert system is a great idea. I mean, I anticipated the water all the way up to my patio is what my call was. I missed it by about 15 inches. That's a lot when you got a car in the yard. So I think this is a great idea, and I'll take the heat too with you, Gary. We need it. It would have been nice for everybody. I heard a lot of people say they woke up and when they put their foot on the ground, there was water already there. And as we knew, it came in really fast this time. We've got a couple great places here that you can move our vehicles. The Catholic Church seems to work very well. It's a very safe place. I think the parking lot was full during Florence and empty during Michael. I think this alert system would have definitely, if we did it, just say, hey, we kind of got a bad feeling here, and let everybody know. And then maybe it could be a second one when it's when it's running through your house. But definitely, if it would have come from a local a local broadcast that, you know, we're feeling like the sound's full, and that it might be a little bit higher than what we think. I think more people would have moved their stuff. I know I would have probably moved a few more feet up myself, but anyway, that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay. All right, now I want to talk about Wednesday morning. Wednesday morning, we're going to wake up and determine whether substance and good judgment has trumped party affiliation. Just that simple. I'm going to hope that the citizens of Dare County have good judgment and go for substance. With that in mind, it means we will have to replace Irvin. So I've talked to Pro Tem Craig a little bit about this and the possibility of how we go about doing that. And our thoughts at the moment is to put out feelers, kind of like Kill Level Hills did, and ask for candidates. Give us your resume and give us a chance to look at who's available, who's interested, and decide where to go. So what I'm asking you tonight is, if all comes together the way we think it's going to come together, if I give instructions to the manager to put out something in a newsletter and other media sources, asking for people that are interested to take a vacancy, give us their resume, would you have a problem with that if we pulled the trigger on that once we know?
Yes, sir.
Jeff?
No, not once we find out.
That's the way to go if we have to move that way.
That would give us time maybe to get some candidates and possibly even act in the December if we had to do a closed session, whatever we might need. We'd have time to deal with it. That's my thinking. Any objection?
I think it's the only fair way to do it, to be honest.
Yes.
Okay. Monday, we'll talk about it, but kind of get together with Kill Devil Hills, figure out the best way to pull that trigger and be ready to do it. All right?
I gotta get elected first.
We realize that.
Well, like I say, party affiliation hopefully doesn't trump good sense. Okay, public comment. Anybody? Yes, sir. Please, come up.
My name is Brian Morgan, and I'm the Chief Judge for Kitty Hawk Precinct, so I appreciate you addressing the issue of shortening up the time that we have meetings, moving it whenever. I was approached by Lynn today while we were waiting. It has not been a terrible burden for me personally. I know that most of us would appreciate getting out of here earlier, but that's, if it causes undue hardship, I get it. I haven't approached you personally about doing that. It's okay. But if you do move it 4, 5, what have you, we greatly appreciate it. So thank you very much for that.
All right.
With respect to the alert notification sign-up campaign, again, Lynn approached me today. I personally do not feel that it will be a problem impeding the election having your sign-up desk there, but I have one question for Lynn. If you would try to not obstruct the voter coming in, but rather just announce what you're doing, do not impede the voter, but then make yourselves available on the way out, because this has been a very touchy election for a lot of reasons. There have been many people looking for opportunities to complain, so I would like to nip that in the bud before any of that possibly could occur. So please announce what you're doing, but in no way, shape, or form, please impact the ability of anybody in line to get into here and cast a vote. That is just my request, because I think that it's a golden opportunity to be able to reach out to people here and let them know what you're trying to do. But I'm telling you firsthand, after having seen people vote and the comments that are coming out of their mouths, they're fired up right now. They're looking for an opportunity to complain about anything, and that's all across the spectrum. I have a question for you with regard to the alert while I was sitting here. It did happen very quickly. Some of our friends on the point called in a panic and said, hey, can you help us out? Is there any way that anybody who sees that happening could call the town and tell them, check this out, this is happening right now? The alert is fine, but you have to know what to alert people to. So is there also an opportunity for anybody observing it firsthand to call anybody in the town and say, you got this alert system, might be a time to kick it in? That was just my question as I was listening. Other than that, thank you very much. I appreciate you guys again looking out for us and when we set up, and look forward to as many people as possible getting out and vote tomorrow. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Let the record show, no one else came forward. I motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Right.
Opposed? Having none.